process as well. Yeah. Okay. So do you know what you're in for?
No,
No, do I never tell you?
no, it's okay. With you, everything is possible, right?
Oh,
So as long as you're here, then everything is possible. So I'm not so worried.
oh, that's very good, very good. So we always move in the rhythm. So now this session is actually the second last session of the kind of like 12 session structure approach to mentor coaching, specifically for coaching, mentoring for coaching rather than mentoring in general, right? So this more specific towards coaching, mentoring for coaching rather than the larger scale, and it's also kind of different from the supervision process as well, so that you kind of have a good backdrop overview. Um, the ICF definition for mentor coaching would be really on the competency-based mentoring. So how do we do it? How do we mentor? How do we take the skills of mentoring into the coaching process to help someone become better? Now, there's another element which is like, for example, branding, business development, all these other things. These are other things would not fall under mentoring or mentor coaching. It can fall under mentoring, but it will not fall under mentor coaching. So if you suppose if you're mentoring a coach for their business development, then that's a different thing. But the same skills apply, right? But here it's just that we kind of scope it down into the competency aspects and kind of decipher it. Yeah, so that's what. So we've covered almost all the competencies of mentor coaching. So now we realize, you mean you still got core competencies for mentor coaching? Yeah, there is the core competencies for coach, team coach, and then mentor coaching. There are 13 of them, so it's quite fun. Today we're going to cover one of them, and we're going to move a little bit into the process. And I think we're going to get some practice as well, and we're going to get kind of Joanne to give some of her mentoring process, because that's when we'll be doing this one thing in just a while. Okay, so later on, we get a chance for Joanne to do this one while I type these things here. Okay, so this is where Joanne is going to try to demonstrate as many of these 13 markers as possible for the mentoring process. Okay, so later we're going to do something live. Oh, Joanne, you ready to do something live later? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can, no problem. Okay. So let's just dive into some of the key things that we want to talk about today. Then after that, we get a little bit of practice, and then we dive into the kind of like assessment process. So it's going to help all of us move. Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Can you guys see this one? Yep. Okay. So we're coming towards the end of the conversational process, where you had a coach who has done some coaching, and they would like some feedback on whether they're going for ACC, PCC, or MCC, which doesn't matter. Or maybe they're just starting out. They just want some coaching to kind of refine. So there's some people who may take mentoring just more so for their coaching skills development. So in this sense, we're now towards the end, where you've kind of given them the feedback in front, you've kind of given them a little bit of mentoring in front, and now we're towards the last 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes of the mentor coaching session. So right now we're going to kind of like dissect this part here, known as the moving the needle, or a sense of doing it now. So sometimes I like to call it moving the needle is the Angmo term, but in the Singapore there's just do it. Okay, so, or Lego. Okay, so this is Singapore term. Okay, so basically it's just how do we move, okay, from all the feedback, from all the discovery today, how would we like to move forward in this? Because probably the coach has a lot of new ideas, a lot of new learnings, and sometimes all these new learnings, they will kind of get confused because I don't know which one to focus on. Yeah, so that is when we kind of use this to kind of guide the whole process. I'm going to show you this questions here that has specific meaning behind them, so that to help the client move forward. Okay, so let's take a look at the very first one, which is what would you like to focus in on? Okay, so this one actually, okay, so let me just put here. Okay, this first question kind of scope down the specifics, a specific area of feed forwarding. Okay, so you remember the last two sessions, we talked about feed forwarding and some of the elements that the client can take forward and move ahead. right? So this question is not, it feels like it's a coaching agreement question what we focus on, but really at this last stage is what would you like to focus in on, specifically in the areas of your development, or specifically in the areas of taking the learnings from today to move forward. So that's kind of scoping down to that one or two areas. So here, notice this is moving the needle means that we're not looking for big things. We're looking for that small little things, like one or two things that we can help the client to move forward, right? So when a client says, okay, I think I want to work on competency number 3 more, that is too big, right? It's just too broad. We cannot kind of digest. So an example kind of needle specifics kind of reply from the client could be, oh, I would like to work on pausing for 1 second, prepare myself internally, and then offer the next comment or question. Okay, and in doing so, I will remind myself internally to study. Okay, something like this, right? So it's kind of like, yes, it's the idea is to pause, but what exactly you're going to do about that pause? Okay, you're going to do a 1 second, and then okay, what's going to happen inside? So really scoping into what is that one or two or three specific areas that you want to implement straight away into your coaching practice. Okay, so then that's why there's this part here on scoping down, and then the next part is how would you like to move this forward? How would you like to implement this? So basically, once you have this, it's how would you like to implement this? So for example, this could be especially so when the coach is in the middle of the conversation, where the coach is getting engaged into the conversational story. So for example, right, maybe perhaps this is where for the individual could be, especially during moments when where the content the client is sharing uh, is intriguing to me. For example, right, that's when I tend to miss this pause, because I'm so excited about the content that I want to go in much more, right? So this is where you kind of like, okay, how would you like move forward? Okay, that's one. Then and then one of these things is how would you like to remind yourself if you tend to forget? So maybe it's their notepad, maybe it's something else. So this is all the how, and what is that one small step you like to take? Okay, so although this is kind of a small step already, but we're looking at that even smaller step, right? So to really put in place this one, so it becomes part of the habit or part of the growth cycle. So what is that one small step you like to take in this? Okay, maybe for a start, it's just to be aware. Okay, because maybe I want to do the 1 second, but maybe I'm just not aware, so I cannot catch myself. So maybe what I want to do first is to kind of like have a dissociation in the process. Okay, so maybe the first step is to be aware when I tend to fall into the content of the client and forget about pausing. So that small step. Because before the client can do the 1 second, something must happen, right? Which is the awareness of the client. So I'm hearing out for, okay, what is that one small step that can help you move in towards this, towards getting this done, right? Which is one, for example, awareness, or maybe to be able to catch myself when I go very deep into the content. So that's one approach. Okay, then when would you like to start implementing it? So right away, maybe in my coaching call in 10 minutes, right? And what are the foreseeable challenges? So this is when the threats come in. So what could happen in the process? Well, what could happen is that I might not be aware. Okay, if I'm not aware, are there markers or points in the conversation I can do it, right? So the foreseeable challenge could be maybe, so example, okay, maybe I am not aware at all. Okay, so maybe I could have a physical time checker. So example, I may put say 15-minute mark, 30-minute mark to kind of tell me to pause, okay, at the start. So this could happen because maybe in the whole conversation, if I get too excited, I might kind of miss everything. So maybe I want to have like a physical time checker at a 15-minute mark, a 30-minute mark to kind of do that, right? Then additional resources is basically, okay, how do I then support? How do I help myself in this whole process? Who can I support? What can I do? What additional resources I can do? So for example, here could be that okay, so that I would transcribe the session, etc, okay, or something else. Right, I could transcribe the session after that and evaluate how many times I have done the pause. How many times have I given a pause deliberately? Then maybe in future, what I can do is the timing or the timeliness of the pause. Okay, the timeliness of the pause. Yeah. Okay, so this is all the things that we will kind of enhance. So it could be in stages. So for example, first stage, what would it be like for you? Second stage, the timeliness of the pause. Then third stage, something else, something else, something else, and fourth stage, something else. Right. So maybe for the start, awareness. Second, okay, then I want to deliberately have the 1 second. Third, now it's not just randomly 1 second. I want to know how many times actually I do it. Have I done it overly? That means I do too many times. Then the fourth, maybe okay, I want to know the timeliness of the pause. When would be the best time to really pause and at the right opportune moment to really create that evoking of awareness. Okay, so these are the different stages that you kind of help the client to think about. It's not just okay, I'm going to work on competency number 5, presence. I'm not just going to work on listening, but really specifically, how would I kind of implement it? So it's not just generic, but really, really focus into those 2 areas. Then get the client to kind of do it here in the moment with you, and then try it out. Okay, so that's something that we kind of do. So I'm going to give you an example here. We're going to use Celeste, because Celeste just had a coaching conversation at 6 a.m. So it's very, very fresh. Okay, very, very fresh. Now, Joanne, would you like to try first, or anyone want to try first in terms of trying to get these things for her? Okay, which let me just go back again. Okay, these few areas. Okay, let me just copy this into our chat box here. Okay. Okay, so what we can do first, we can do in like kind of sequence. What would you like to focus on to move forward? So assuming you've done the mentoring already with Celeste, okay, that means like she just did her coaching conversation. You did all the mentoring in front already, very, very nice. You kind of know what she wants already. Now we're at the last 5 minutes. Okay, so now last 5 minutes. So then as the mentor, you're going to dive in to ask, okay, what would you like to focus on? And then kind of listen up for whether the scope is. Okay, so who would like to try that?
Try that as in mentoring Celeste?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Correct.
Okay, I can try.
Okay, so the last 5 minutes. Okay, then the rest of us here, right? Okay, since we have got these few points, let's distribute the points out. Okay, we have the focus point, we have the move forward point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, just nice. We got 3% here. We got Haider, Braille, B. So each one can take 2. Okay, so I'll put your name beside now. Okay, who want to do the first one to observe whether Joanne did this?
I can do that.
Okay, so that's the Rio. Who wants to do this one?
I think you can just distribute.
Yeah, I'll do that too lah. The first and second, or maybe.
Yeah, first and second one, then
You can
maybe
take third and fourth.
either this one. Okay. You just observe, see whether B Joanne could do. Then B here. Okay.
But I got so many examiner.
Observer, not examiner, observer. Because it helps them with the practicing of the listening as well. Yeah. Okay. Are you ready, Joanne? So I will give you 5 minutes plus minus 1, right? So if you need a little bit more time, that's fine. So it kind of scope you to know that, okay, how much depth must I dive in? So you kind of pace yourself. Usually I would say that since it's the last 5 to 7 minutes of the conversation, I mean, in terms of the depth of how much you want to go into, we try not to go too deep inside because it can burst into another whole conversation of 30 minutes. Yeah, so you kind of think about, okay, now I got this like 6 parts here that I want to kind of do to move the client forward. How would I like to distribute the time forward? So usually I would say the first two questions when I spend a little bit more time to kind of dive in, then the last few is a bit shorter. Okay, so whenever you're ready, you can try.
Hi, Celeste.
Hi, Joanne.
Yeah, after listening to your coaching, I just want to check on you moving forward, what will be the area that you want to actually focus on in terms of your coaching skills?
Yeah, I think it's really to establish more on like how can I hit the 3.4 marker. Yeah,
Especially on the 3.4 markers.
correct.
Okay. And based on the 3.4 markers, I am curious to know what are the thoughts that you have in your mind to actually sharpen these markers.
Yeah, so like because since over the last few minutes we were talking about like how can I work on the coaching agreement, and then I realized that when I follow a more structured approach, right, I kind of don't know how I can weave in the 3.4 into the conversation. Yeah, so I want to see how I can do this in my next conversation.
What is in your mind, or rather what kind of blocks that you have whenever you are faced with these markers? I mean, in the midst of that coaching moment.
Yeah, so I'm constantly thinking like, oh, okay, how can I get that resolve? Like, what is the resolve that the client wants to achieve? Like the whole, right? But I feel like I'm always kind of like still at the surface level. I cannot really go very deep still. Yeah, so that's constantly on my mind.
I'm curious to know that, when you're actually listening, were there certain perspective that you have in terms of your, I would say that, were there certain expectation you have that you want how the coaching session actually goes the way that so-called you think would be the ideal one that is actually hindering you?
I think last time it's worse, but I think now what I'm hoping to do is to just establish the CA first. So yeah, so I don't think there's any expectations during the conversation, but I get very nervous at the first 10 minutes because I want to make sure that that the coaching agreement is established well, then I'll just flow along with, yeah.
You mentioned that last time is worse. I'm curious to know how you managed to overcome it, that you actually see that, hey, I'm actually better right now.
I never really like overcome anything, but I do like the transcript, so I can see like from session to session I'm actually able to hit it. Like I'm actually able to like get more evidence based on my session. Yeah, so I feel that the way that like what is working for me now is that I just follow a sort of like a structure first. So like I know that, okay, if I say this, my CA is established already, then I flow. But the thing is, I'm still missing that 3.4. Yeah.
And knowing that you want to actually sharpen this 3.4 competency, what kind of small little steps that you think you are able to move?
Yeah, so what I've been doing is that I like after the session I will transcribe it, then I will insert like sentences of what I like upon reflection, this is what I could have said, right? But then it never happened. So I think what I could do moving forward is that maybe in my next session I can like open up my previous transcript and see what is that sentence that came to my mind when I'm doing reflection, and maybe try to see if it works in this current session.
Okay. So with these small little ideas that you have in your mind to actually move forward, what is the timeline that you see that you actually want to manage better on this 3.4 competency?
I think maybe give myself like Maybe like I will try it for this month. Since I have a few sessions over the next 2 weeks, so can see if it works. If it doesn't, then I will have to review and see what is it that I can change. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, are there any resources that you think you need, or I can support you in terms of the resources that can help you to establish a little bit firmer anchoring of this 3.4 competency?
I think it's really like to do more transcript, and so maybe like watch more different demos and see like how other people manage to how they manage to hit that 3.4, and what is it that I can do to close the gap, like yeah.
Okay. I just want to share with you a quick thought, as I'm actually so-called learning my competency along the way. I personally find that listening to my own coaching, it actually helps a lot. I am able to identify, hey, just now I should pause, just now I should ask this question, or I didn't hear this carefully. So that hearing part was actually quite powerful for me. So it's also good to identify your style of learning. Are you more on the visual or more on auditory? Because that will actually help you to grasp the insights better. Yeah, so that is something that we can actually explore further in how you learn. Okay, teacher Jedi.
Okay, very good. So it was about 7 minutes. So it's quite okay. Yeah, quite okay. Okay, so good. How do you feel in the process?
I think this is a good so-called focus point to bring the coach forward, especially on what they want to achieve in regards to their agenda. Yeah, so some will actually say something very vague, I want to improve my coaching, full stop. But then if you were to ask them further details, sometimes they will just think, I want to improve in powerful questioning. So again, powerful questioning can also be very vague. Powerful questioning, you can actually delve into how you pick up the powerful questioning, some of the cues that the client says, how you are able to magnify it to actually help her to know what is your depth of thinking. So this section of conversation help you to drive the client forward, and also help her to see what works for her and what don't work for her. And we also can identify maybe what she has been doing may not work for her.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, now let's see the observers. Let's work with the first one. Brio. Okay. Were you able to observe like what would you like to focus in on the scope of the moving the needle?
Yes, Joanne spent quite a large amount of time actually to try to get Celeste to be very to focus on the needle lah, basically. I think when Celeste started, she said 3.4 markers, and 3.5 markers are a huge topic.
Huge thing, yeah.
Yeah. And then she went on to talk about, sharpen herself to work on the CA. But again, sharpening yourself to work on the CA is also a variety of things, right? It could be active listening. It could be, being succinct. It could be trying to move the clients towards something. So there's quite a lot of, I would say, skills needed to actually sharpen her techniques to work on the CA. So then she went on to talk about, I don't know how to weave into 3.4 into the conversation, right? Weave in all the competencies of 3.4 into the conversation. So, but it was good that Joanne asked her specifically, because she said it was not deep enough. So Joanne asked her specifically what is it in the area of 3.4 she was looking at, because there's so many competencies, and she actually talked about being nervous the first 10 minutes, right? So I thought that could be an area that she can work on, right? I think Joanne was also trying to find exactly what is it, although she said nervous, then she says, okay, now she's better, but what do you mean by better?
Yeah.
Right? So I think that Joanne did definitely try to scope the 3.4 down to something very specific. And then after that, she did went on to ask her about what does she want to do moving forward. And she did pick up the point about being nervous also. She said, because she said she has improved, and she asked her specifically how she has improved. And then she shared about, she has been listening to her own recordings, and she's looking through her transcripts, and she puts in questions, right? So Joanne actually asked her all that, and then she also gave her feedback on question 2, how would you like to move forward, right? So she said that she was going to open up her Google transcript to look at the question prompts to actually help her to be able to delve deeper into the CA. So I believe from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, observing, Joanne has actually hit the first 2, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you notice that that's why I say that the first part usually takes a little longer time, because the client usually kind of like, oh, okay, 3.4, I feel is that, but usually maybe that working on that might not help. So as the mentor, right, that's when the difference then comes is that if I'm coaching her, or if I'm coaching Celeste, then I will let her kind of discover. But if I'm the mentor, I kind of know, okay, actually her problem is really more of nervousness than anything else, state management. Then I can come in and say, okay, Celeste, is it okay if I pause you there? What I'm hearing is that the sense of nervousness over there. Let's just circle in a little bit more into that, and let's explore a little bit more before we move forward. So as the mentor, we can kind of do this to kind of pause her thought, dive in there, then after that continuing forward. Yeah. So I give you guys a simple tool, right? I call this the TapBat tool. Very, very, very simple one. Okay, so as you're hearing the client, and then you just tap, right? So now are you familiar with TapBat? No? In our team leadership coaching. Okay. Then now we can pay attention. Ayo.
I remember so much to learn in that.
Okay. So just remember tap first, okay? Tap, right? So this is what I call thoughts or thinking. Okay, thoughts, thinking.
Okay.
This is how to help our minds kind of categorize what we're hearing. It helps me a bit also to help me to hear what the client's really saying. Okay, so usually in these 3 categories: thoughts, emotions, behaviors. Thoughts, emotions. Okay, so just now when Celeste was sharing all those things about 3.4 she wants to work on, okay, which part of it were the emotions I'm hearing? What are the behaviors she's trying to demonstrate? What are the thoughts that she's having, or stuck, or psychology is stuck in her mind? So the emotions, for example, then I kind of say, oh, okay, it's kind of like nervous, right? And then behavior is like, okay, I can't, right? I don't know, right? Kind of like I'm stuck. I don't know where to begin, kind of. So that's the behavior. Then the thought is that, oh, okay, I just don't know what is the real problem, blah blah blah. Okay, so
Not good enough. I
not
mean,
good
the
enough.
thought I feel behind her face is I'm just not good enough to get into the CA, right?
Yeah,
That was the thing that I saw, right? So it's actually I felt it was also a confidence issue, right? Because she's nervous, and then because she's nervous, she's not confident that she's actually gotten the CA, but she could have like actually aced it all.
yeah.
But it's just herself being just tough on herself, isn't it?
Yeah, which is true, right? So now this is actually very, very powerful that Bria brought it up, right? That she noticed that as listening to Celeste, oh, okay, she's hearing that sense of no confidence, or not good. She feels not good enough, or she feels probably, hey, now especially if you're the mentor for some time. Okay, let's say I'm mentoring Celeste for some time, and I know that that she has been trying to work on her CA for some very long already, and she feels like, how can it be? I got direct access to JEDI all the time, and then how come I still stuck in 3.4? That's what she's feeling, right? I I got all the, I can ask him anytime, but then I just do not know why I get stuck. Now, so then that becomes the psychology a bit. But the psychology or the thought actually affects her emotions, which means that in the first 5 minutes, right? Oh, jialat, I cannot get it. Well, then how? No, I'm gonna. This coaching recording is gonna be horrible. So straight away, kind of like in the cycle of defeat already. So like for example, let's say for some of you who may learn some psychology in terms of the spiral of defeat, all kinds of different models, you can start putting these models inside the process. Like, oh, okay, the thoughts influences the emotions then influence the behavior outcome. So that's why I call it TapBat, which is easy to kind of remember. So in the coaching process as well, or in the mentoring process as well, if you want to know, okay, let's say for example, I want to listen, I kind of like want to kind of separate the emotions, from the thoughts, from the behaviors. This is a good way to kind of see. This is also part of the cognitive behavior theory, which we cover in our cognitive behavior class, where we kind of like teach coaches, okay, we separate these thoughts, the behaviors, emotions, so that the client can kind of reflect and dissociate. Because if otherwise, the poor client is always associated to her emotions, or she kind of like matter up everything. Okay, so this is a really good discovery. Okay, so great, great work. Bria was able to observe that. And what about Heidel? What is the small step, and also when the client would like to implement?
Yeah. So for Joanne, definitely she asked on this, right? What's the one small step you like to take? So Joanne asked, what kind of small little steps you think you're able to move? And then Celeste's answer was, maybe I can open up my previous transcript and think what is the sentence that come to mind and see how it works. So I feel like at this part, Joanne did touch on it, and I feel that she can go a little bit deeper on that, because there's still some vagueness in Celeste's answer with regards to that small step. You can hear it in a maybe I can do this, and then we'll see how lah, right? There's that. It implies that. So perhaps what Joanne could do is maybe could ask, okay, so how would that work? Would you do that maybe 2 hours before your coaching? Like how would it help you to get into that state? Right. So maybe you can touch a little bit more on that. And then the second part is, so Joanne, this is the part where, when would you like to start implementing it? So Joanne asked, what is the timeline you're looking at? So this is good. And Celeste asked, I will try for this month, since I have a few sessions over the next 2 weeks. I think at this point also, Joanne could do a little bit more to emphasize, okay, when exactly? So this month is already on the 16th. So if you want to be a bit more specific, do you want to start before your coaching, which is like what, 2 weeks from now, and then it's end of the month already? Okay, so maybe work out a little bit of the logistics, like when exactly, and I think that will be a good enhancement. Yeah. So that's for me.
Actually, this is a very powerful thing. Okay, so let's go back to this part here. Now, whenever I hear when, right, this part here, I want to hear a sense of do it now kind of thing, right? Do it now kind of thing. What? Because if the client says I'm going to do it in this month, right? Most likely there's going to be procrastination and whatever coming. So a sense of do it now could be, okay, let's say the client says, okay, I'm going to try this out in the next session. Okay, great, next session. But what can you do right after this call we have? Yeah, so the moment I end this call with you, what is it that you can do immediately? Okay, so this is what we call the recency effect. Whenever the okay, let's say the client's wow, I feel really excited. That's when we kind of match that emotions with the behavior. That's why that's the bet, emotions and behavior. So when the client says, okay, I think I want to do this, I think I need to do this. Okay, so rather than wait 2 weeks later for my coaching session, what can I do now? Okay, so for example, now I could do like, okay, maybe right after this call at the moment 11 p.m. is up, 11 a.m. is up, I'm gonna take my pen, write down. I'm gonna create my own cheat sheet. I'm gonna do this. Okay, then I'm gonna schedule my next call. Then right after the call, so this is a sense of like, okay, I'm gonna take whatever insights I gain from the session and put it right now. Yeah, so that's something that we want to hear from especially for mentoring, because a lot of times mentoring is like, once you finish the mentor session, then okay, so what would you like to do? Oh, okay, I'm gonna work on my active listening. Okay, good. I'll see you next session. Then bye. Then then for the 1 whole month or 2 months, then the person say I'm going to do listening, but okay. Then after that, the coach come back again, and then the same problem happened because there wasn't that implementation, immediate implementation. Yeah, so that's or I'll work on it. Or like I think I will try. I think I will. All these kind of words, usually I'll pick it up and say, okay, I know you will try, but what can you do right now? Okay, I know you're going to try doing it in the next 2 weeks, but we're going to do right now, right? Right after this call. Or sometimes, right, if let's say in the mentoring session, I will get the person to write now. Okay, so Celeste says, okay, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to put in my calendar. I say, okay, so let me give you 5 minutes right now. Open up the calendar and just put it right now. Yeah. So there was one time I was like mentoring this guy from the US. He's a black man, right? And then so much bigger than me in terms of like the physique and the size, and then he, he's more scarier. Like so after that he tell me, okay, Jedi, I think I'm gonna do it. I'm going to do it. But I kind of sense that okay, like going to do it means I don't know when is he going to do it. So I wanted to kind of push him forward. So I say, hey, it's okay if I kind of push you a little bit more. I said, rather than doing it after the call, would you like to do it right now? Then he asked me this question: are you challenging me? Then I said, yes, I'm challenging you. Right? Let's do it right now. Right? Let's do it right now. Right? Why wait until then? I mean, we have time here. Let's do it right now. Right? So at first he was.
At this point, I just want to check in since you mentioned about this. We probably need to have certain agreement, pre-setting conversation when we want to mentor someone, especially when male dominant has ego. They don't like to be challenged for some.
Oh, yeah. So in your pre-session, I always say that I'm a crazy coach. I will challenge you, I'll provoke you and everything. But it's going to be a safe space. My outcome is for your best interest, right? If you want to engage me as a mentor, be prepared for me to do strange things, but things that will help you get to your outcome. So you can frame the session like this, right? So when I push the person, or sometimes if let's say you never pre-frame the person, in the session you feel that, okay, you felt led to kind of challenge the person a little bit more, you can ask the client, is it okay if I challenge you further? Will you be up for the challenge, right? If not, then okay, that's fine. But all I can say is I can make the person want to take the challenge. I say, hey, you know what? I'm sensing that you really love this challenge. I'm sensing that you really want to go beyond this. Would you be up for this challenge? Can I challenge you on that? Can I push you a little bit more on that? So this, yeah.
So Jayla, means at this point, I just jump in because when we are doing ICF coaching, normally we try to be very,
Oh, that's coaching. This mentoring.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just wondering, there's a distinction between if we are doing coaching. So we say that we don't want to have to challenge our clients without permission. So if I'm a mentor in a pre-session when I want to let's say I'm setting up the mentor contract, I can add something like that. In the space of this that we are doing it together, there will be challenging questions that I may put forward. Are you open up to that kind of challenge?
Yes.
This is what is done before we start the mentoring process.
Yes.
Or in the process of when we are doing mentoring, when there is like that for example, I have the sixth sense, intuitions, okay, like I want to challenge this person to have immediate actions. I can put it that way. I mean, the way that you just put it is that the person may instantly react and say, are you challenging me? Okay, so we just have to be honest and say that it is. Or maybe we have if possible, if I have if I am aware of myself that I have not gained the permission before I put it up as a challenge, I ask for permission. Is that the way it's done?
Yeah. So there are a few ways. One is think about it from a cultural perspective. If I'm in Asia, let's say Singaporeans, I will not do that style, right? But because I kind of know his style and pattern, he kind of know my style and pattern. So I kind of know that that will kind of really get him going. So first thing is always thinking about the person's culture and also their where they're from, how language really moved them in that culture. In Asian context, a bit different. Like for example, our community in there's this Singapore Chinese is a bit different motivation. Singapore Malay a bit different. Singapore Indian a little bit different, right? Although why is that so? Well, because the communities have their own little styles, little language patterns that really move them forward. For example, the older generation folks have a different style that move them forward, right? The younger generation also a different style. So you could pre-frame the session by saying that, okay, let's say before your 12 sessions with the client, you could say, hey, Mr. Client, in the process of coaching or process of mentoring with you, I will be challenging you, moving forward with the purpose and intention, not just to challenge you like this, but to help you move forward when I notice there's areas. And I'll ask you for permission in those moments as well. Okay, would you be okay with that? Now, suppose let's say you're done all that pre-sessions and now you're about 10 sessions into the coaching session or the mentoring session, and obviously the person forget already. So whenever I want to issue a challenge that is provocative enough, all right, of course not to provoke in the, hey, why your political mindset like this one. So it's not this kind of provoking, but I'd say I want to really challenge a person. I know it will kind of push him, right? And then I would say this, hey, Mr. Client, is it okay? At this point, I would love to challenge you a little bit more. Would you be up for the challenge? That could be one language style. Or hey, you know what? I think this is a good opportunity for us to go in a little bit more, to really push the boundaries a little bit more. Would you be up for it? Right, so there are many different styles you can kind of do it to prepare the client's heart for them to take it. Because sometimes, right, your direct feedback to the person can be quite shocking. Okay, say suppose for Celeste, I want to give her direct feedback, direct communication feedback for mentoring. And sometimes mentoring can hurt the client's heart, right? It's like, 伤到他们的心, right? So let's say for Celeste, right? I want to tell her the direct reason why she's stuck at CC number 4 for so long, or coaching agreement in general for so long, right? I say, hey, Celeste, would it be okay if I offer you a HTHT? Heart to heart, right? Now, why? Because that's the language that resonates with her, right? I cannot say, hey, Celeste, now I got something serious to tell you, right? May I have your permission to challenge you a bit? That kind of too formative language is like not her style, right? So I kind of match her style, to what really matters. Is it okay if I HTHT with you? Well, unicorn, giraffe, monkey, donkey, turtle. But turtle, donkey, giraffe, unicorn, cloud. Okay, maybe it works for her. I don't know. See, notice this kind of things, like you have a different reaction from her, right? So the language important. Now, how does this tie into the competency? Let me show you what B was mentioning this now. Okay, so let's take a look. Now, remember, okay, I will point out to here. Okay, direct communication. So this is also part of evoking awareness. Now, notice here, ability to use to communicate effectively during coaching sessions, to use language has the greatest positive impact on the client. Language has the greatest positive impact on the client. Positive impact on the client can have many different things. For example, let's say I may use a certain word, a certain phrase, or certain things that really it's more direct in nature, or maybe it's more sometimes we use language to kind of make it very, I don't know how to say, like make it very, very smooth. That doesn't help the client. Like, oh, B, that was such a great session, B. Wow, I love your session so much. Really good. I think you can improve a little bit more on this. Too much of that fluff in front. Yeah. Whereas B's communication style is, hey, B, I think you can work on A, B, C, D. More directive, because it has most impact for B. If I kind of flower up in front and tell, hey, B, wow, oh my goodness, that was such a brilliant conversation. Then this kind is like your hair stand. Right?
No, I was saying that, I don't know. This is not my style. We just are wondering, why are you saying that to me?
Yeah.
You bring me.
Yeah. So that's how we bring in the language of greatest. So which means the mentor or the coach, right, has to have the flexibility to kind of move. Right? So if you may have your own style, right? I may have my own style in kind of mentoring, but sometimes at certain points you may want to kind of pivot your style a little bit, change your style a little bit to kind of match the person that's in front of you, right? And then sometimes I will test because sometimes I do not know what will really move the person forward. Yeah. So let's say, for example, if I'm mentoring Celeste and for a few times this problem keep on arising, then I know that maybe perhaps the way we are communicating or the way that we are kind of designing of actions or moving forward is not really helping her. So then I kind of do some active experimentation to kind of figure out what would really help her to move forward.
So on that, Jedi, so let's say if you have a client who tells you that, okay, so like you said, right, challenge them, right? So you challenge them and they are not ready. They tell you, oh, I'm not ready for this challenge. Okay, so obviously as whether it's a mentor or a coach, you would always say that, okay, fine, then at your own time, at your own pace, then you will scale back and ask them, what do you think that you can do? If you cannot do the full-blown challenge, then what half-blown challenge you can do, right? Or 3/4 or 1/3, or I don't know, 0.3% of the challenge that they can take, right? That's one. The other thing is also, what if you get someone who says, you know what, I can't handle your tough love.
Okay.
I know that is what is needed to get there. This is my 10th session with you. In fact, I only have one more session and then the package is over, but I still can't do it. Right? I mean, I don't know. For me, I have a tough love coaching style. So yeah. So what do you do?
Okay, so let me tap it out for you. So
Especially like, for example, if you have a mentor coaching agreement and the agreement is, let's say 10 sessions, right? 10 hours of 10 sessions. And then they're so close, like two more sessions and then it's over. And then from session 1 to 9, you know that they've been stuck. They've been stuck for a long time.
Yep.
And then you ask them and say, oh, do you see a pattern here? Of course, you explore everything, right? I mean, do you see a pattern? Would you like to change that? Yada, 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 right? All that I think by session 3 or 5, if they are still stuck in the same place, 3.4, 3.4, 3.4 all the way, then by session 3 or 5, you will say, okay, so do you see a pattern? So what do you think? What other options do you think you can have? So the last few sessions you practice this, it didn't work, then what can we do to change it? Yada, yada, right? Then come to session 8. You only have 2 more sessions to go, right? So it's like, okay, you know what? To make your money's worth, you really have to do this. You know what I mean?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I can be directive to them. Let's say I know it's like the last session, and the client still insists that I can't do it, or I don't think I can do it, right? Then I ask them, okay, what would really give you? I mean, if we don't do it, is this going to help you? Right.
Yeah.
Or does this
No,
make
so they are very honest. They tell you that they know they need to do it and what you say is correct, but they just can't do it.
okay? So
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, I know whatever you said is correct. And like whatever we design or what we plan out to do is the best thing for me. But I just can't do it.
Yeah, okay. So if they say
So-
I can't do it,
Of course, as a coach, I feel that, okay, fine, then it's not painful enough for you. Then you just go on live lah, Then say la villa, enjoy yourself, know. And when it's painful enough, then come back to me.
Correct,
Then, that I will get you there, but it's just,
So usually what I do, right, in this one is what we call, let me just type it out so you can see.
yeah.
Type here.
Especially for a mentor coach, I think it's very important. I mean, for a coach, I find that sometimes, okay, you just,
mentor coach is very important. So
you kind of like, okay, fine, you come back to me when you're ready to work on it. But as a mentor coach, I think, yeah.
So this is what I do for such people, right? I've met some naughty people. I call them naughty coaches, right? So there is a behavior. I call them I do it the BC, the ADBC. I have so many acronyms for everything. Okay, so this is the behavior consequence. Okay, so I'll do something like this. I say, hey, Mr. Klein, I mean, this choice are totally up to you, and you know that what you need to do to really help you get there. But what is the consequence of you not doing it? I get them to kind of associate and be aware of the consequence. And what would this consequence lead you? And what would I have? What would I do for your coaching? And then after that, I'll tie this consequence to their maybe the higher outcome or higher intention or outcome. So for example, right, let's say the person say I want to become an ACC PCC by October, okay, and then they say, yeah, I cannot lah, I think God will make a way when there seems to be no way. At the last minute, I think He will create a miracle for me. So some people are like that.
No time to do transcript, yada 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 lah.
Yeah. So I said, hey, okay, that's totally fair, okay, but are you able to? What is the consequence of that? Okay, then from the response, I said, okay, with that consequence, does that help you? How does that link to your final outcome or your intention in August? What would be the impact for you? Okay, so are you able to live with that consequence? So sometimes I'll just tell them straight in the face, are you able to live with that consequence? Right? Every behavior is a consequence. Okay, then the person says, okay, I think I will live with the consequence. I said, okay, as a mentor coach, okay, or if I say I want to make it even stronger, I said, is it okay if I, let me just tell you from a mentor coach perspective, if you continue in this perspective and you always skip transcription, you don't come for mentoring, you always delay, you may eventually kind of scrape through your recordings, but in your heart that your coaching will not be able, in your heart that your coaching is not at the level where you are satisfied with or happy about. Right? So I can just tell them straight away like this, the consequence of it. So that's what I do for people who say they're not ready for the challenge. I always tie in the consequence. So can they accept and can they live with the consequence? Now, then make the consequence really, really big. So I get them to do one thing. Call them the AD. Okay. Associate, dissociate. Okay. So I get them to be associated with the consequence of it, and then dissociate with those things that they feel like, oh, I think I still have time, right? So I get them associated with the consequence so they feel more pain, but dissociate with that, oh, I think I got more time. I think I got time. And most I just delay one more year, lor. Then most I delay one more year, right? So this is I call this the ADBC, Ado Domini, and also before era. Okay, so this is one simple way to kind of get them. But in the end of the day, right, let's say they still choose whatever, then I said, okay, as a mentor coach, I'm still here for you. If you need additional sessions, you know my rates, you know how to get me. But I've done what I can, and is there anything else that you need me to help you with? Right. So at least I have a closure for the session, that they don't blame me for their behavior, and they acknowledge and they agree that they have chosen this part. Right? Because sometimes, right, if we don't close like this, right, then the coach may go on and say, hey, you know what, hey Brian, I paid you money, but then you see you never challenge me enough. So then then now they say you should just be hard on me, just give me a cane, just cane me, but you never do that. Your fault lah. Okay, so now some coaches can spin words like this, so I don't like people spin words like this. I just rather tell them, hey, okay, right, now we only have one session left. If you choose not to implement, you must bear with the consequence. And our outcome for us in this coaching or mentoring session was to really help you implement these things. Now, I'm available for you to pay me additional sessions. Okay, remember, if you want to continue your sessions with me, my rates are ABCD. Okay, and I only take in. So if you want to continue with me, you must sign up for at least 7 more mentoring sessions based on where you are right now. Okay, I'm still available for you. Reach out to me whenever you're ready, and I'm here for you. Right, so they kind of do a little closure for them so that they prepare. So that if let's say they call you back, and you can say, hey, how has it been? Or if they kind of like they say, oh, or they start spreading false rumors and stuff like this, you've said you said what you need to say, you have kind of like wrap up for them. So that's also one of the reasons why sometimes I record all my mentoring session. I record every one of them and I send to the client for a few reasons. One, we have both a recording. We have both the recording. You have the recording and the recording. And I told you in the recording also, right? This is what it is. So sometimes you may have naughty clients that kind of like ping way, flip flop, and they say, hey, bro, tell me, tell me, you promised me that after the 10 mentoring sessions, I'll become an ACC level, but never. Yeah, so then I will say, hey, in the agreement, we did say that this is not a guaranteed ACC, right? But I will mentor you towards it. Even in our individual coaching sessions, which is all recorded, you have a copy of that. I have a copy of that. I've mentioned it as well. So there's all this evidence there that they cannot say anything otherwise. Yeah. So I've encountered before, like some naughty people try to blame me for them not passing. Right? In the past when I started off, then I say, okay, so I just tell them, okay, I'm gonna record all the sessions and send you guys. If you don't want me to record sessions, then you can join other people for other mentoring sessions. Yeah. Okay. So good. Oh, B. Okay. B. Okay. What are the foreseeable challenges and what additional resources could help? Oh, you need to unmute.
Sorry, I am too engrossed in the sessions. I forgot about what Celeste says. I didn't write down the conversation, so I'm a bit lost here. Somebody who I what do I do now? Let me see.
Oh, no worries. Let me help you with it. Okay, so
Yeah.
just now, right? When Joanne was coaching, mentoring Celeste,
Yes.
she did mention this, right? Joanne did ask this question.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
and was she able to also elicit some of the other resources that Celeste can tap on to help?
Yes. So when Celeste was asked this question, Celeste actually mentioned what the challenges she's facing, and I think and after that with these resources, I think she says she would like to do something about like the transcript, something for her to use it to check out on her competency about what she's want to work on. That's what I can remember.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Actually, Joanne did ask about did check in with Celeste whether what are the potential challenges or threats, and then also additional resources. Now, again, this part here we can go much deeper. We can stay a little bit more on the surface. It really depends on the which stage the client is in. So, for example, right, let's say I got a 60 or 90 minute coaching or mentoring session, then I could spend maybe 15 minutes on this moving the needle. I can spend, so you kind of like segmentize your time accordingly. To me, okay, in fact, to me, in the mentoring process, it's more important that the coach has. So it's not more important for me not to give all the feedback, because no point I give all the feedback every single thing about the coaching session. It doesn't really help the client. I will kind of like focus in on the key areas, or the key areas that's of concern for the coach, and then after that really design a lot of these actions and go deeper and then spend more time. So I'll spend a lot more time here. Maybe I'll spend half an hour on this even, because you see, I can give the coach okay, let's suppose it's a 90-minute session, and I spend the first 60 minutes kind of going through the feedback and everything. I'll spend half an hour into this areas of moving forward to really scope down what exactly the client is going to do, or what exactly the coach is going to do.
Sorry, this is my first time joining this session. I'm just going to ask a very stupid question, but I assume that this portion of this scoping going forward, moving the needle, right? It should be done in every single mentor
Every single-
coaching session, right? Not just the last few sessions of the whole package,
no,
right? So
every-
every session, what you're saying is every single session, right? Okay,
Yeah,
understand.
every single session. So suppose let's say you got 10 sessions, and then maybe your mentor coaching 60 minutes. Then I would say 1/3 of the time I'll go for this. At least 1/3 of the time. In the coaching conversation session, then you usually spend about maybe 1/5 of the time or 1/4 of the time. But in the mentoring session, I'll spend a bit more time, because this is the part where sometimes coaches want to hear all the feedback and everything. So to me, it's like, if I give you every single feedback, it's just too many things to work on. Yeah. So I would rather that they tell me which area they feel more they struggle with, or I point out to them one or two areas, or it can be two ways. The coach tell me first, and as I'm listening to them, or as I'm reading through their recordings, I realize, oh, okay, actually there's this one or two other areas that I feel that's also important for them. Then we kind of agree on what to work on, and then spend a little bit more time on this focus area. Yeah. Now, is it possible to spend 50%? I think it's also okay, 50% to just work on it, because this part here is more important, which is the actioning forward to help the client. Yeah. Okay. Very, very nice. I think a lot of things in just one small part. Joanne, any thoughts, Joanne?
Now, I think this point about the checking on the client, I would say that not just only after every session, but every 2-3 session intermittent check, to make sure that we are aligned, and I'm actually helping you to achieve on what you desire to achieve, your journey as a coach. So is that the 10 session is not just only every session. Before we have another session, I will have this so-called moving into Zoom in focus conversation with you, and then every 3 sessions, I will say that we have done 3 sessions. I just want to make sure that we are aligned and that you are actually achieving this objective that you want. And that if you are working for ACC, I want to know what is your targeted timeline and what are your plans, and also the type of action plans that it should be mapped out, that she has to commit, because the fact that she map it out in a journal or in a diary to show me, it shows that she has to follow, so that we are able to achieve the timeline we want. So this is also another method, not just only on talking.
Yes, I think that's very important. This is also what I do with the coaches as well. I get them to say, hey, let's map out what you want. So in the first mentoring session, usually I spend a lot of time just, okay, when are you in submit, what are things, and then let's break it down in the next few sessions, what we're going to do. And the whole mentoring can just be focused on that, getting them commit to the different sequence and getting on track, right? So that if let's say they say, oh, I've become busy, maybe my puppy, I have a new puppy coming, or maybe I have a new kitten coming, or my puppy suddenly want to give birth again, or something like this, right? Or something happened again, right? So then we kind of get them to anticipate if these things are coming. Okay, I mean, they kind of probably know, like, okay, August maybe is when it's going to peak period for my workplace and everything. So, okay, having known all these things, let's really set in place, right? And let's put into the milestone so that we can achieve it together. Yeah. So this is one area where you can have like a document with them where you can create. So I have documents with the mentees where we kind of map out all the different timelines and we reflect on that every single session, and we may go in a little bit deeper every quarter. So if let's say you have 12 sessions with them across 12 months, then you can do this one quarterly check-in, which we can spend a little bit more time. You can do pre-check-ins, making sure that they all fulfill that relevant timeline. Yep. Okay, so this is where the mentor coach can kind of design their own style, and the flexibility of design of your own style. Like, okay, maybe I will have a template of the timeline. Maybe I'll have like this one that I get the mentee to fill in, right? So all these are possible. Okay, so good. Now, this part here will be very, very fun because this part here is when we look at competency 13, which is how do we demonstrate the ability to self-manage relative to any coaching model preferences and stay focused on the skill assessment related to the core coaching competencies. So your clients may come from different backgrounds, maybe neuro leadership, maybe coactive, maybe solution focused, maybe strengths based, maybe appreciative inquiry. I don't know what all whatever models that they've learned out there, right? That is fine. So as the mentor, you want to be able to kind of like delineate between their coaching model preference and then staying on that coaching skills or the competency to really listen to the dissection. And that's why you find that, you see, in our program, the reason why I don't quite give a model, I tell them, it's more flexible. I rather give a way of thinking, right? A process of thinking, or how do you think about the conversation, so that the coach is not fixated on a particular model. Otherwise, they are trying to coach towards a model. And I've seen some of the coaches that try to coach towards a model. Maybe it's a GROW model, AGOA, or ACC model, whatever model that they have, right? But so this is where, you see, it becomes very important for the mentor. And ICF also says this, that yes, the coaching schools may teach whatever model that they may teach, but the important thing is not the model. The important thing is the demonstration of the core competencies. Is the core competencies impeded because the coach was just strictly following the model, or is the coach flexible enough to maneuver that? Yeah, so that's very important. So no attachment to a particular model. Okay, so what does this mean for us? How do we kind of like differentiate it? Well, let's take a look at each one of the different models that are popular out there, or maybe let's name some popular models that you guys know. What are some popular models that you're familiar with? Anyone knows what some popular models? Ayo, no, OMG is not a model. OMG is it's a way of
You
conversation.
mean coaching model, you mean?
Coaching model.
Like GROW and all that, is it?
Like GROW and all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, you cannot ask any, okay, I don't know. I shall not speak on behalf of B, but it's very hard to ask people like us because we've all been trained by you. So you have no model, right? Yours is the go with the flow model. The ICF competency model. That's your model, isn't it?
My model is no model.
Your model is follow the make sure you can do whatever model you want, but make sure you follow you meet all the ICF competency model. That's your model,
that's
if I remember correctly.
That's the bottom line of my model.
Yeah. You can use whatever models you want or whatever style you want, but you just make sure you hit all the ICF competencies, isn't it? That's your model. Yours is the go with the flow model. Be free model.
Yeah. Don't be in the bondage. Be like be like Sarah, not like Hagar.
If you talk about coaching models, so things like GROW, things like what's the other one?
we will,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so like I said, we were all trained by you, so you should
And
know the model.
I know I know all the model that's out there. So I study so many of the models. And let me just show you guys, right? Let's run through some of the models that. So if let's say your mentees come to you and they say, hey Joanne, you know what? My company or performance-based coaching teach us grow model, right? And John Whitworth tell us, oh, this is the best model, the number one model. Google also uses model. Everybody uses model. Even the SAF also uses model, right? So SAF uses this model as well. Even MOE uses the Grow, but MOE use the modified version of the Grow. I think called Growth or something, right? So and I think Brayo should be quite familiar with the Grow model in in her workplace as well. They use. So now the Grow model. Okay, nothing wrong with the model. I'm not. So I usually don't. I mean, I may make jokes about the model, but the reason is because sometimes people get so stuck that okay, I start with goal, reality, opportunity, way forward, and they cannot like dissociate, or they get so stuck. Okay, am I at the growth stage? Am I at the reality stage? Am I at the whichever stage, right? So now here, where are the competency demonstrated, right? So let me just show you guys here. So for example, really the goal it's about competency number 3. That's what it is, right? It's the coaching agreement. What do we want to work on? The agreement, and then this reality is also CC number 3, which is the measures of success. Okay, so there's the measure of success. So there's the M, right? This is basically the O. Okay, opportunities. These are all basically these are kind of like okay, I would say the growth model is more like solutions focused, where you have a lot more. Okay, what are really focus on the actioning, solutioning. Okay, what are the different options? So this is really more about CC8. Okay, of course, you use in the languaging process all the different items, like listening, questioning, and everything. But opportunity is really focusing on the CCA. What choices, what are the things, co-creating the options forward. Then way forward is really CCA as well. What are the learnings, steps, and everything to move forward, right? And of course, in the process, you may use all the other competencies to kind of develop more. So you see that the grow model it's really much like the solutions results oriented or performance oriented model, but I would probably not mix performance with this grow model a lot. So there are research materials that show that this um, the performance is not really about just getting action steps. There's a lot more to do in terms of how a person is performing or how to increase performance, right? So performance coaching has a lot more to do with not really about what the person is doing, but a lot more to do with helping the person create a sense of self, a little bit more of the being process. Yeah. So here, if I'm listening to the client and or the coach, and the coach is using the grow model, then I'm listening up for all these different things. But I'm mindful that 4, 5, 6, 7 might not be very clear. Why? Because in a grow model process, although yes, they may want to be present with the client, but presence is not really focused here. So that's why you have this new trend called presence-based coaching, mindfulness coaching, whatever coaching that they call it, or clean coaching, or whichever new words that they use. Or sometimes they call it somatic coaching, focusing on the person rather than just the actions itself. Okay, so now this is the grow model. Now let's look at the solutions focused model. The solutions focused model you have. Let me copy this out. Okay, you have the rapport first. So they begin with rapport, which is your CC number 4. CC number 4, yeah. CC number 4, which is trust and intimacy, trust and safety, right? Set the contract, which is CC number 3, which is the coaching agreement. So in many parts of the world, they call it contracting. What we call, I mean, I use the ICF term, which is coaching agreement, but other parts of the world, they call it contracting, which is the same thing, right? What contracting in terms of what do you want out of this session, right? That's the contracting. Outcome frame. This thing here, outcome frame, is actually an NLP term. So this whole thing here, okay, so you realize solutions focus has its roots in NLP. Okay, outcome frame, experience and everything, this whole thing, outcome and creating experience, they're all NLP. Logical levels, this is actually also the work of Robert Deutz. Okay, so Robert Deutz, John, Robert Deutz, John Grinder, Richard and all these other people kind of do a lot of this kind of things, right? Outcome frame, reframing, ecology. The idea of ecology as well came from its roots with John's work as well as Richard's work. And then, of course, logical levels here, HASI frame, scaling wheels, choosing timeline, all these things come from the whole world of NLP. So solutions focus has its roots from the NLP world. And this whole part here, outcome frame, creating experience, blah, 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 this has to do a lot more with the CC number 567, which is evoking of awareness, listening and everything. But notice this, the challenge with this is that we're imposing a certain frame on the client, right? We get them to think about SE frame, we get them to think about ecology. So nothing wrong with it, but it's just that I'm using my frame to kind of work with the client. Okay, so it's kind of a standard frame. Okay, so this is something for us to consider. Now, action steps, that is CC number. Action steps, CC number 8. Right, CC number 8. Okay, and of course, here the final one, celebrate, value, what this is basically CC number 3 and 8. Okay, final check-in with the client, how did the session go for them, and then celebrate success. So the main bulk is here as well, right? Main bulk of the conversation is here. So that's the solutions focus. Now, of course, different companies have a different approach to it, but that's generally it. Results-oriented coaching as well, it's similar. Now, notice they're kind of like more in the line of questionings that they do. A lot of the questioning is a lot more about what they want, what do they want, what do they want. So that kind of approach. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Now, can this produce results for the client? It can, right? But one of the challenge here, or the limitations of the solutions approach, is that then we're always thinking about the solutions. We're not thinking about the solutioning. We're not thinking about the person in the being state. Yeah. So it's a lot more doing than the being. Okay, so that's something for all of us to kind of know. Now, what about this one, the Oscar model? Okay, Oscar model is also quite popular in other parts of the world, in the European nations. Also, you see we have outcome scaling. Okay, notice that this two. This is the CC tree O. This is the M. Right, the O and M scaling, which is a lot of coaching schools love to use scaling method, which is from a scale of 1 to 10, where are you right now? From a scale of 5 to 6, where are you right now? So a lot of scaling. Now, know-how, resources. Okay, so this is where what you currently know, what are resources you have right now, right? So there's a lot of more discovery, where it's more about CC8. Yeah, action planning, a lot of CC8. Review, also CC8. Okay, so yeah, so you begin to see a pattern in a lot of all these models. A lot of models have the contracting at the start, a lot of time spent on the actioning or the design of actions, the resources available to them. Now, what about the other model, which is quite popular as well, the STEPA model? The STEPA model is recently has gotten a lot more traction around the world, right? So they begin first with the subject, identify the goal, again CC3. So notice, almost every coaching model begins first with what you want to focus on, which is the outcome, CC3. Target identification, basically, it's also CC3. But here, they use the SMART goal on the outcome. Let's dive in, what exactly you want. Let's do SMART, blah, 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 right? And of course, emotions, that's when they tie in, they believe that we need to kind of figure out what's emotions that's motivating you. So this one is actually the Y, okay? The O-Y. This is actually the O, what? Remember the what, why, who, right? So this is the one. Then the perception is really the who, right? So this is what they did. Then the planning stage is really the competency number 8. Here, this CC8. CC8. Okay, so same thing for all these things: plan, pace, actioning, CC number 8. Okay, so same process. Then look at this. Fuel also quite popular. Frame the conversation, current state, desired state, this one. So actually, fuel, it's to me, it's a very simplistic conversation. Why? Because it doesn't really tell us much. See, notice everyone tends to skip a whole chunk of things. They always go into the outcome, right? And then here's the number 3, which is M. So present state, current state, desired state, and then M. Now here's where the fuel model goes wrong. So when eliciting the state of where the client wants to be, most people kind of have a desired state. They want to know, they want to get there, but they feel there's a gap. So usually I will start with the desired state first, then the current state, rather than the current state and desired state, right? Because I want to know what they really want, and then what's the delta gap, or what's the gap difference here. Okay, and now when we look at this one, clear model, same, contracting, listening, exploring, actioning. CC3, CC5, 6, exploring, also is deep dive, and then CC8, and then after that, finally review and assessment process. So again, all the coaching models similar. Now here, what about this? This is also same. 1, 2, establish rapport, identify marrying conscious and unconscious strengths. This is strengths-based coaching. Now today quite popular. People like to do strengths-based, but there's a problem with strengths-based. Okay, so then they say, okay, marrying the conscious unconscious strengths, identify coaching teams, encouraging framing solutions. And see, notice they jump very fast to want to frame solutions and all these things, right? Reframing and everything. So that's the downfall of strengths-based coaching. Overly focus on strengths. It's not Jedi say one, but I've sent you guys an article from Harvard as well. So if you have a chance to read it, do get a chance to read it as well. Okay, so let me show you. Here. Okay, so if you see this one, strengths-based coaching can actually weaken you. There's a few points that I agree with. Some points are kind of like so. Okay, so firstly, of course, strengths-based is not evidence-based. It's just Gallup's survey basis to kind of get all these different data points. Yeah. Now, so you go through this one. It gives you quite a good idea of what strengths is and everything. And now notice this part here. It can give people a false sense of competence, because strengths-based help people identify individuals to identify their strengths. But people are generally unaware of their abilities and capable of evaluating their own performance, which is very true, right? If I'm good at what I do, it's sometimes I may overestimate what I'm good at. Sometimes I may underestimate what I'm really good at, right? So there's all this process. So that's why that is kind of like the pitfall of the strengths-based. Then actually weakness-based coaching is also very good. Yeah, coaching around the weakness. Now, so all these are kind of interesting. Now, the one of the most taught models around the world is not GROW model, where it's actually the coactive model. The coactive model has its roots in the founding days of ICF, IEC, the EMCCs and everything. So these are the coactive model. So coactive model, it's similar to what we are covering, which is the co-creation. So I prefer the word co-creation rather than coactive. So here you notice there's listening, curiosity, self-management, deepening, forward intuition. These are the elements. And then what they believe in is that the coach must kind of find that balance in overly curious or too much intuition or too much listening. Am I listening overly? So there's this place of the coach needing to kind of balance this whole process of these 5 different points, right? And then ability to dance in the moment, focus on the whole of the person, evoke transformation. People are naturally creative. So notice here in the coactive model, it's not really steps. They don't tell you what steps, but they give you that premise for you to think about how do we design the conversation process. Really much like how at CCL we kind of also share with coaches, right? From the premise of connecting the client, co-creating the client, deep diving the client, and kind of helping the client to move forward in the conversational dance. So here in the coactive model, it really is about focusing the whole of the person approach, conversation, and balancing between all these different 5 elements together. Yeah. Now, one of the things about the coactive as well is that you'll find that the coaches are kind of sequential in their coaching approach. Why? And how do I know this? Because a lot of coactive coaches come to me for mentoring. So then I hear the same pattern again and again. Very, 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 very structured, very, very systematic, which kind of rob the conversation flow, because they're no longer focusing on the whole person. Okay, and then finally you have this thing recently quite popular as well, appraisal inquiry, the 4D 5D model, where it talks about discovery, dream, design, deploy. I have a whole video on this as well on YouTube about the appraisal inquiry model. So with all these different models out there, sometimes your coaches that come to you or your mentees that come to you say, hey, hey Joanne, I have this particular model, I have that particular model, can you teach me a little bit more? How can I show more of the appreciative inquiry? How can I do this more? Then they are focused on the model. So as the coach, as the mentor, then my approach will be, I said, okay, you can use whichever model it is, and I appreciate you. But for the purpose of this mentor coaching session, is to really help prepare you for your ACC, PCC, MCC credentialing. At the same time, it helps you to understand what is the competencies that you're demonstrating while using those models. You may use appraisal inquiry. You may use neuro-based coaching. You may use clean coaching. You may use somatic approach. You may use whichever approach that you use. Now, how do we see where the evidence are for the core competencies? So helping them to point back at the base of it all is the core competencies. Then we layer on all the different other things that you've learned. So that's the fun part about mentoring, because you get to learn more and more and more about all these different things from different people. Yeah. Okay. So great.
Sorry.
Yes.
And then just with all the sharing about the different models of coaching, these are what they call it, a methodology that we can actually find out by reading up, or maybe from YouTube's, right, to understand what is it about.
Yes.
So it just serves as some resources for us when we are doing mental coaching, just in case that the coach, they are interested in different kinds of methodology, and they want to use some of the techniques, and then how do we actually support them to implement it in their coaching,
No.
that they know.
No.
So what is the purpose of all learning? I mean, too much. I say too much information. So what is the point of actually knowing all these models, and
Let's go
how
back
to use it?
Let's go back to competency number 13. Remember what I said? Competency number 13 is that the coach must be able to delineate and stay focused on the assessment than the core competency. So what we've just shown you here are the very common models that's out there. So as the mentor coach, you will not be taken aback. Oh, I do not know about this. I don't know about that. As a mentor coach, I don't need to teach the mentee how to integrate the model to the competency. That's not my role. That is the supervisor role, right? Whoever the person supervisor may be. My role there is to help them to point out to them and say, hey, as you're doing this, what are you demonstrating here? What competency are you demonstrating? So competency-based conversation, it's neutral, which means that regardless of what models you use, what frameworks you use, what mindset you use, what frame they use, we all have to demonstrate the same core competencies, and I can use different models to show. My role as a mentor there is not to teach them, oh, okay, you do G, then you do no. My role is not to get and do that. My role there is to help them see, hey, what competency is being demonstrated here while you're doing that. Yeah. So which means that regardless of whether you are familiar with the person's model or not, doesn't matter. Which means you can mentor anyone across all these different schools. Right? So maybe maybe the mentee might come from a different coaching school with a different philosophy. That doesn't matter. Different philosophy is all okay because the fundamental core competencies are the same. So as I'm listening to their recordings, what am I listening for? What are the competencies is arising? Then I'm using that as a same basis to kind of coach or mentor the mentee.
So another question is that people are learning coaching in different organization. Okay, it could be anything else than ICF. So if a mentee come for mentor coaching, so engage you as a mentor coach, they will have their own coaching programs or contents or context they have been. So we use whatever we have learned about the competency from ICF, and then we mentor them so that they can get their credential in whatever organizations they are in. Is it
No.
something like that? No?
No, they can learn any methodology, philosophy from any school. Okay, but when they come in front of me in my presence, when I'm mentoring them to help them understand what competencies are they demonstrating in those process. so that they can do some self-reflection, self-evaluation to see how to improve their coaching skills. They can use whatever philosophy or methodology in the back of the mind, doesn't really matter. Now, my purpose is then in the process is that as I'm mentoring them, right, is of course, if let's say they're there for ACC level, it's really help them to see where they demonstrate ACC level, where they demonstrate at BCC level. Then from there, they evaluate for themselves what do they want to do with the knowledge, with the feedback to move forward in their coaching conversation. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, Jedi, we actually mentor them based on the ICF core competencies. So that's the benchmark, the common benchmark that we'll use.
Correct.
So regardless of the models they come in, regardless of the training they have, regardless of the frameworks they're going to use. Now, but then let's say, for example, if they're not going for ICF, so let's say, for example, they're not going for ICF, they're just trying to come and improve their skills. We would still communicate to them that the way we are going to mentor them would be based on the ICF competencies, because that's widely used and that's widely adopted throughout the coaching community. Now, if they are going for example, what's the name of the European
EMCC.
ICF? EMCC, yeah. So EMCC will have a different list of
Yes.
competencies that they are looking at.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, they're going for EMCC, then we will have to use the EMCC competencies, isn't it? Instead of the ICF competencies. I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
if they are
the
going for
conversation, yeah.
if they're going for the mentor, I mean, if they are going for the application for EMCC, then
Yeah.
they need an EMCC mentor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it will not be us already,
No, no, no.
because
Yeah.
because we are only ICF, right? So
Right,
just to frame the conversation, I don't know whether that's what B is trying to move towards in terms of clarity. So for me, I'm very clear.
Mm.
Regardless of where you want to go, I'm using ICF competencies as the benchmark, so that we kind of have a common ruler to look at, right?
Yep, yep.
And if the client is happy, regardless whether they are going for accreditation with ICF or not, some just wants to improve their skill sets, then they will have to recognize that it will be based on ICF core competencies. And if they're happy with that, that's fine. Then everybody's well and good. But if they're going for what's the other one again? I can never remember. EMCC. Then they have to find another person, because I'm not equipped with EMCC competencies. Am I correct?
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, good.
Okay. Now, some people.
Which is the model that leads the client, where the coach leads the client towards visualization?
Visualization. You mean the mindfulness one?
Yeah, some coach, they will ask the client to visualize, from the beginning to the end. Yeah, like closing the eye, visualization. Which is the model?
Oh, there are many models that does that. You have the what I call that, the ontological approach. You have the somatic approach that asks you, okay, Joanne, right now I want you to close your eyes. I want you to visualize the ideal self, your ideal self. Okay, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? Now I want you to float back into your present moment. The kind of thing, right? So
Yeah. Your right is can you decide right or left? Right is what? Your current self. Your left is your
present
future
self.
self.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now step into your right. Would you please stand up?
Mm.
Some of them, they do that kind of coaching.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Step into your right, that's your current self. Step in your left, that's your. So how do you feel? How do you yada yada yada. So
I mean that's their style, right? And sometimes I feel that okay, that might work for some people.
Some people, yes.
Yeah. Especially people who are more maybe kinesthetics, they need to move around. And that's why there's this whole school, right? That are purporting this idea of standing coaching.
Yes.
Yeah, standing coaching. So they have like I think 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We stand around and then coach. Don't sit down, stand around and coach. But to me, okay, my philosophy is that as a coach, you must be flexible to adapt to the client's learning style. If I impose my style, I mean, people can learn my style, that's fine, but I should not use that as the only way for the client to learn, right? Or the only way for the client to visualize. Yeah, because sometimes the client can visualize in different ways as well. Or sometimes, let's say the client says, okay, before we begin, let's take 3 deep breaths. Like I think Sunday, I had this client who was saying, okay, take 3 deep breaths. As you hear my voice, I want you to remove everything on your mind. Breath 1. As you breathe out all the bad. Now breathe in again. you're bringing in clarity. As you breathe out, you breathe out all the confusion. Now, anything wrong with that? I mean, that up to the person. It's their own thing, their own style. That's okay, but the style, okay, and their own approach should be separated from the competency. Yeah. Okay. So what happens if, let's say, the mentee wants you to coach them in on, I don't know, like other areas? Then you got for the mentor, you evaluate yourself. Like what can you do? What can you not do? Yes. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Questions? This is sorry. This is a new hairband.
Yeah. Very effective one.
This one also model.
Very, very good.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Question so far? Or
But sometimes when it comes to models, we don't know if it works until we try it, right? Like we don't know if it works on the client until we try, for
Yeah.
us to know whether it's,
that's why you see, for my approach, or my philosophy is that when you enter the conversation, you base on the premise of co-creation, and then in that moment, we may be creating something that makes more sense in this season for the client. Yeah. So sometimes it's really customized and bespoke to what the client really needs at that moment, and that's why it's what we call the naturalistic conversational flow, where there's a certain flow of conversation that in that moment will be very different. If I do this with you 1 year from now, 2 years from now, it's going to be very different. Yeah. Or sometimes Bruce Lee like call it a formless conversation. Yeah.
The weird thing about Bruce Lee is his philosophy is about formlessness, but he himself create a model, which is Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah. It's the same thing as what we teach here at CCL. Although I say formless, right? But I got steps.
I got form. Still got form.
Why? Because for unstructuredness to happen, there will be a sense of structure as well. So I always give illustration, like dancers, right? Like ballet dancers, very, very nice to watch, or singers, highly sophisticated, highly flow, but the flow is very precise. There's a structure to the flow, but the structure is not felt. So that's what I always say in conversational flow. There's a structure in conversational flow, but the structure is not overtaking the performance, or not overtaking that flow state. Now, when I say flow, also it's not going all directions. If the river is going all directions, you don't have a river. You have a pond. Yeah. So if the river is going and meandering nicely, there is the river banks that's kind of structuring the conversation flow. But the rapids and the river is not filling that, right? But the meandering, that's when the flow is. So to show it in an illustration of a metaphor, in coaching conversations like this, where you have the banks, you have that little structural pieces, and you flow within the structural pieces.
Right. So in a way, you're saying the structure facilitates the flow, but it does not restrict the flow.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah. So that if you see, the structure becomes the background, and then the flow becomes in the foreground. Very much like, let's say, for example, in the teaching process as well. I in the class that you attend, I tend not to say, okay, these are the 3 objectives today. This is the learning points today. Some, especially like the WSG program, they will always have, okay, this is the learning objective for today. This is the point for today. Nothing wrong with that, but then that is the style of that teaching methodology, right? But can we allow that thing or the structure to take a backseat and allow the conversation to flow very naturally? So my litmus test is this: can we allow the client to feel that it's almost having a conversation with me, but it's a conversation directed at a certain outcome?
I got one experience whereby I tried, the perceptual positions activity.
Yeah.
Where we get the empty chairs, and then they will sit down as themselves, and then as the person they're having a conflict with, right? I tried it out in my one of my coaching sessions before, and this client, he had an issue with his mom, right? So I got him to be himself, to say what he needs to say to his mom, and then got him to be in the perceptual position of the mom. But there was one catch, which is the client had a lot of difficulty to say out. That means they cannot no matter how safe the space is, they still feel like I cannot do it. I cannot do it. Right. So then I asked him, okay, so what would make this easier for you? And then he said, can I just do it in my mind? And I say, okay, go ahead. Right. So in a way, I don't really know what the issue is, but he was still able to, have that release through his mind. And then he became the mother, and then the mother also through his mind communicated it to him. So ended up the result was quite there was quite a breakthrough. So that was I would say that is sort of like how I tried to apply a coaching model or a tool, but in a way it's still calibrated to the client.
Yeah. So those are like, let's say, perceptual positions are techniques and stuff. And there are conversation techniques. I mean, we have a whole like compendium or repository
A
of
whole suite. Yeah.
yeah, we have a whole suite which is still in the writing side in the book. Haven't finished it, but we have so many toolkits, a lot of techniques that the coaches can use in different segments, different possibilities. But what we can do in the coaching process is to go content free. Content free means this, right? That I don't need to know exactly what the client's facing. I can bring them through the process, and without even them telling me what's really happening. Yeah, I don't need them to tell me every content, every detail. Oh, I was suffering with abuse, with rape, whatever. Especially when the topic comes from those kind of themes of, like, let's say, abuse, rape, or this kind of things, right? Which may be very, very, very hard for the client to even articulate the words. We can use the coaching process, and the person can use a metaphor or use something else, that doesn't matter. But they, as long as they know what's happening, we bring them through the same process, they can still get the outcome. Yeah. So like Celeste says like this, yeah. But like learning piano as well. You need to learn what the chords is, what the notes are, before you can just anyhow play, right? But it's not, when you anyhow play, it doesn't mean anyhow play, but there's a rhythm to it. Yeah. So there's a difference between people say, oh, then like that I don't need to learn coaching, ma, right? Why going to spend time learning coaching? Because when I can just flow. So it's not just like that flow. Yeah, there's a certain pattern, certain rhythm, certain cadence. Yeah. Okay, very, very nice. Now we're gonna do the experiment, which is a full-on mentoring. Okay, so who would like to be mentored by Joanne?
Since I'm new here, I will raise up my hand now.
Okay, so Ray will raise her hand. Okay, now this is where okay, I'm going to ask Joanne. Okay, Joanne, for today, which areas of this competencies, mentor coaching competencies, would you like to zoom in on?
Between 1 to 13?
Yeah, 1 to 13, yeah. Six, which is this one. Okay, so 6, listens both for the presence of individual competencies and the overall tonality of skill level. Okay, Ken. So in the mentoring process, I'll just dive into here, and all of us can just dive into here. We're going to listen for how Joanne is going to help Braille in that conversation flow for her to work on different competencies and the totality of the skill. Yeah. Okay, and we're going to put some evidence here as well. Okay, good. Brio, you recently did a coaching conversation, right?
Yes. Okay, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yes, so.
No, you don't have to coach anything, because Joanne is doing the work. She's just going to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was supposed to coach, and then she observes, and then she tells me, okay, yeah. So what am I supposed to do?
If you want, you also can. Would you like to coach, or would you like to use a previous experience that you had?
I don't think we have enough time. We only have 20 minutes. So yeah, I don't think there is enough time for me to do a coaching and then for her to.
There
Huh?
is always enough time.
It may not be alternatively, if I use something that I've coached recently, so how do you want to start, or how do I bring
so
that
if let's
in?
say you use an existing coaching conversation, then Joanne will straight away dive into that, getting your inputs and observation for it.
Okay, so yeah, I can do that. I think then it gives her a little bit more time to explore.
Because I think you have sent her the recording before, right? or she has seen your coaching?
She has seen my coaching, of course.
So then good, then good. Then we use that one because since she was there, okay. But what I'll be evaluating is not really the content of the coaching, but more of the mentoring of Joanne. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Joanne, I think we used the last one that we did with Ling, if you can remember.
Yes, yes. So you guys don't need to listen to the recording, right?
No
Okay.
need lah. They don't have to listen. It's you coaching me on my performance.
Correct.
If
So
you
we
can
could-
remember. Can you remember?
Yeah, maybe I can remember because this is so impromptu. Okay,
Yeah.
anyway, the recording that I've sent to you, Jedi, is a feedback of what I have given to Brill.
Hmm.
So the whole structure of the recording, she is going towards a PCC credential.
Yeah.
And in a large framework, the whole flow was okay, but to go a little bit deeper into identifying the details of each competency, there needs to be further improvement. For example, identifying the coaching agreement. So the old coaching agreement was identified, but it can actually go deeper when the client actually explained about the issue. Brill was very focused to actually find out, what is the outcome the client want to achieve and what is important for her. So she did achieve those markers that what ICF is looking for. But what can be done to improve further is the soft touch of a coach, whereby when the client actually explains the issue, she can, in that very succinct manner, to do a light reflection, so that reflect active listening and also coaching presence. And also let the client feel that she is important, and that building out of the conversation will be more effective. So that will boost a stronger PCC markers on that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into one category of the markers.
This is one aspect lah. This
Okay.
is one aspect that I have actually feedback to her.
Yes.
So I've heard your session with Braille, and okay, so let's zoom into one area. Which one of these areas? Okay, let me just pull it up so that you can choose. Okay, so for the purpose of the PCC recording, is it more active listening? Is it more evoking awareness? Which one of these?
I would think that it will be CC6 active listening, because when there is a reflection, it actually shows active listening.
Okay.
It actually shows what have been captured in terms of the emotion, and that also give the opportunity to inquire further on the non-verbal cues and certain body language or energy shift.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of things. You're pointing out to CC 6.7, 6.4, 6.3. Yeah. So in this, okay, let's use like a 5 minute or 10 minutes, 10 minutes mentoring, right? With Braille. Choose one of these areas that you want to work with her, or which area. Okay, so let's ask Braille for, out of all these 7 points here, for the PCC markers, which one or two you would like to dive in a little bit more in the 10 minutes?
I think Joanne mentioned something very important, and I think that's an area that I should work on, which is 6.7, which is the ability to succinctly reflect or summarize what the clients communicated. Like she talked about the soft touch, right? To ensure the clarity and understanding. I think that's an area that I think is well identified by Joanne. And that's an area that I think I should work on. Yes.
Okay, so Joanne, this is what you're going to do, right? In this short 5 to 10 minutes mentoring, you're going to try to do one thing, which is focusing on this 6.7. And then when we look at this part here on number 6, which is listens both for the presence of individual competencies and for the overall tonality of the skill level, you want to be able to see or get the client to give examples or demonstration examples where she has done that, or she has, or insufficient evidence for that. Yep, in the mentoring session. And then probably then we tie in together with the moving the needle forward. What can she do to move forward with that? Okay, so the way I would probably kind of like break down the timing is first maybe 3-4 minutes can identify, then the rest of the 5 to 7 minutes kind of help her to see, okay, what exactly she can do to really improve on 6.7. Okay, so this is a good practice. Okay, so let's try this out and see if we can help her with it.
So do we get Braille to coach on somebody so that I'm able to pick and check on 6.7?
Do you want to do that, or you can use the existing one? Do you remember the existing one that she did?
Yes, existing one, because I'm the client.
Oh, you were the client. Okay, okay. And then do you remember what she did with you?
Yeah, she actually checked in with me on what will be my focus, what I want to achieve, and how would I want to, what make it so important for me to discuss the topic.
Okay,
Yes.
to make it easier for you, because I know maybe it's hard to recall, why don't we get Braille to do the first 3-4 minutes of a coaching conversation with one of the person here, because
Yeah.
6.7 can be done in the same process, right? So then after that, the 5 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes finish, then Joanne will step in to do the mentoring, the immediate mentoring for that. Okay, so who would like to be Braille's client?
I will purposely not summarize, okay? Now that,
Yes,
it's
yes.
drawn to my attention, then of course I will summarize, right?
Correct.
But
So
I will make sure I
yourself.
don't summarize, okay? That
Correct.
like what I usually do. So otherwise it will not be working. It
Correct.
won't work. Yeah, who
Uh,
wants to be coached by me? Anybody has a simple topic?
Haider want to try?
yeah, okay, Haider. Okay, so Braille will coach Haider. I'll
Hi.
time it. Time it. Okay,
Don't have a
so
topic.
topic. Lunch.
Lunch.
What to buy for lunch? Haider's figuring out what to buy for lunch. Okay, so sometimes no topic, just a random topic like lunch, which can be quite a good topic as well. Okay, so about 4 minutes like this, okay, to kind of coach Haider. Then Joanne, once Braille finish, you jump in straight to mentor on the spot. Okay.
Morning, Haida. How are you?
Good, I'm good.
So what would you like? So what's been going on with you lately?
Everything is good. I'm just feeling a bit hungry right now because I'm thinking of what to eat for lunch later.
Wow, lunch is an important meal. So
Very
what are your thoughts around that?
Nowadays, I'm actually tracking every single meal that I eat according to the what time and what exactly I eat. And this is going to help me soon when the gyms open up and I can start being much more conscious about my diet and my exercise.
I see.
So
I
lunch
see.
is actually a very important decision that I have to make nowadays.
Oh, wow. Okay. So for the purpose of this very short session, what would you like to discuss? I know you want to discuss about lunch, but specifically what about lunch is it that you like to discuss?
Perhaps what to eat for lunch later would be a good outcome.
Okay, what to eat for lunch later will be a good outcome. All right. So help me to understand a little bit better. I'm curious to understand. You shared quite a lot of information earlier, right? So why is this decision for lunch so important to you?
Well, because most of my life I've never really been conscious about what I eat. I've always believed that I have a good metabolism. So no matter what I feed myself, there's not going to be much change to my weight or my overall health. So I've to start being conscious of what I'm eating. That itself is, I would say, is a shift. It's a big shift. It's something which is now okay. Now I need to start being more conscious. And if I have to be more conscious, means I cannot be as free with my lunch options as I used to be. And that is already very limiting in that extent. So it may seem like, oh, okay, I mean, I want to be more conscious, but at the same time, it's like, do I really have to? I feel like eating, Arnold's chicken again, or I feel like eating KFC. I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting. So what is the motivation to actually make such conscious decisions at this point in your life?
because I recently felt that I should start building myself up in terms of like my size, because I've always felt that I was skinny all my life, right? And it never really felt to me like it was something like I've always felt like, okay, I don't need to be a bodybuilder or anything, but I don't really like to go to the gym. So I felt like, okay, maybe now is the time before I get too old to actually experience what it feels like to not be skinny. And I would say now is the best time. The only problem is when I had this mental shift, gyms are closed in Singapore. So yeah.
So making this decision on this mental shift, okay, so I'm just trying to understand a little bit more. Okay, what causes this shift? You said you had never, you were never wanted to be big or buff, right? You said that you've always been slim throughout your life. So how do you understand that? What caused that mental shift?
So I start to realize that I still get triggered every now and then when people say, hey, you're very skinny. And I've always felt that, it shouldn't bother me. Like it's something that I've been dealing with all my life, but why am I still bothered by it? And I felt that it's either I continue to ignore this and just say like, dismiss it, or actually start to make a change and do something about it and find confidence that is real and not just something that I dismiss. Yeah. Oh, wow. Straight away, we uncover something quite deep already. Of coaching. Eh?
Okay, so good.
Yes,
Let's
so
pause there. Now
Let's
Joanne.
stop there already.
No more.
yeah, I was gonna say
Stop.
already. Yeah.
Too deep already, too deep.
Okay, I hope you found. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I hope you found something. Love yourself. I was gonna say. Yes.
Thank you, Haider, for
Nice.
this topic. Yeah. Braille, how do you feel about that coaching session that just shot 10 minutes, especially in regards to 6.4 that we discussed, where we want to improve in reflecting to the client and also summarize what the client said? How do you feel on achieving this part?
Of course I said earlier, right, before we started, that I should have summarized, and many a times I was very tempted to summarize, but I didn't. But I'm glad that even though I didn't summarize, I was able to help the person see, help Haider actually see there was this conflict in him about the reactions of comments from others. So
In
it's
fact,
really about, I did summarize, I know.
Yeah, I noticed you actually achieved quite a lot in that 10 minutes. Sorry, I'm too eager to share with you because I just find that
Sure.
10 minutes, there was quite a lot of catch, you actually asked specifically on what he's actually working out on this issue about what to eat for lunch and what makes it so important. And also, you also asked about the motivation. So these kind of questions that you have asked actually give insights, a lot of insight into what makes a client want to explore this topic about lunch and fitness and eating, so there was a lot of keywords come in, and it's surprising that when you are actually asking a question, you are also very succinctly reflecting. Because what causes the shift when you ask this question, and then after that you follow by another 2 questions about the body image or being skinny, that was certain content which the client said that you actually have reflected. Yeah, but because you mentioned you decided not to reflect, so there was still certain hints that there were reflection in those questions. Yeah, but of course, if you want to keep the question very neat, right, then only question, there will not be certain comments or reflection after a question. So that to keep the client's thought very clean. That can be another way of how I see it.
Okay, so Joanne, I'm interested to find out. Let's say, for example, I would like to summarize what the client said. Okay,
Mm,
so because the reason is because I want them to actually hear themselves, basically, because I find that hearing themselves from me helps them to actually reconcile their thoughts, their heads, their hearts, lah, so to speak. I always believe in that. So should I summarize what I've heard and then ask the question, or should, which is what I didn't do right just now, if I'm correct, right? What you just said is that I ask a question, then I kind of give some hints or summary of what they said. So which way do you think is a better option?
I find that the ways is very versatile. It really depends on at that moment, what is appropriate in your momentum to actually insert a reflection. So it could be a moment whereby when the client talk about, when I'm about to start on a exercise or gym routine and then hear the gym close. So you can say, they can actually blend in and say that, yeah, what a timing. And I hear you sharing quite a number of things in pertaining to finding what to eat for lunch. And I'm hearing words like, fitness, you even mentioned about skinny, so I can pull out some of those keywords to actually reflect to the client to say that, am I hearing it right? That I seem to be seeing the fitness concern coming in regards to you exploring what to eat for lunch. How are these related? So it can be a form of reflection. That's what I feel. Teacher, you can disagree.
The
Okay.
problem is that for me, right, I felt that was not, it was not his issue. All these other things about the gym and this fitness and all that, it's just things that he's kind of put in his mind to say why he should. That's not his real motivation. I could feel it.
That is the deeper
I mean,
part.
I could feel it, and that's why, yeah, that's why I felt that instead, I wanted to ask him more about his motivation and really ask him to dig deeper in the motivation part.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah. So my thoughts are, yeah. So my question is, which is better?
Okay, very good. Let me help to bring all of us to attention to this. Let me show you. Okay, here with this
I
one.
want to give feedback. I also have to see the time. Now it's 10:59.
I have 1 minute
That's
to
okay,
do
see.
all of this for you guys. Now, the focus area is this part here. Coach succinctly reflects or summarizes, not reflects or summarizes, not succinctly also, but what the client communicated to ensure client's clarity and understanding. So the idea of reflection and summarizing or whatever, it's meant for the client's clarity and understanding. So, for example, if I'm Brio and I sense that, hey, as Haider is sharing this thing and I'm sensing something like, hey, there's something a little bit more. Why so strange? Why, right? Then I would probably reflect this back to him. I say, hey, Haider, I'm hearing the words like skinny. I'm hearing the words like this, and I'm just wondering, why is that important for you? Why is that important for you? Yeah. So now the question itself, why is it important for you, can fall under evoking awareness. But the question itself, I'm hearing that you're skinny, blah, 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 is actually reflecting what I'm hearing, some of the words. You mentioned earlier that something else and blah, blah, blah. And so you can point out the words and you point out the connection of the words. So there's a few things, right? So so let's say I'm mentoring Brio. I said, hey, Brio, as you want to choose what to reflect, what to summarize, try to do this, right? Identify some of the key themes or words or phrase that client use and reflect back in helping the client to see if there are any connection of this to the larger intent for the client's work. So how does this come in play? Going to the gym, working out more, like you mentioned, for the first time to really do it, Right? What's the motivation behind that? So I'm hearing all these things, and what's the real motivation behind wanting to do all these things? So if you do that, then that is asking and communicating to the client to ensure clients' clarity and understanding of what they really want out of the outcome. So there's always a sense of summarizing, but there's a sense of summarizing that to create connection for the client towards something else. Yeah. So when I'm listening for both the presence of the individual competencies and for the overall tonality of skill level, I'm hearing for different levels. So I give an example. So let's say level 1, just summarizing randomly everything. Okay. Let me hear. Let me summarize what you heard, or reflecting randomly. Right now, I can go even a deeper skill level. Right. So not just randomly, like choosing the right phrases or themes to summarize or reflect. Maybe even deeper level. Level 3, right? I'm really connecting the dots, okay, which is what those words and the client's larger intent. So, hey, Ido, I'm just wondering, with all those things that you just mentioned, how does this connect to what do you really want for your own life? What do you really want for yourself? Connecting to overall. So when you talk about the overall totality of the skill level, which means that, let's say for example, I'm a PCC level, right? I'm preparing for PCC level. In one of this part, there are a few levels here. Level 1 is really just about reflecting, summarizing at a very superficial level. Level 2 is really about, okay, what exactly do I summarize about? Level 3 is really about connecting those dots to help bring about clarity for the client, right? Then level 4, I could say, hey, is it clarity for coach or client? Okay, is it more for clarity or coach or client? Now, if I do this in more from the mentor perspective, I may want to break down like this for the coach. Why? Because sometimes, like when I heard Joanne, she kind of she said this just now, because Brio asked her, should I summarize what I heard, or which way do you think is a better option? Then Joanne says, oh, what was appropriate action, blah blah blah, a lot of different things. So from the years of the coach, the mentee cannot, okay, so have I done right, have I done wrong? So sometimes I may want to kind of like break down in steps for them, so that the client can kind of get the sense of the total overall skill level for this particular competency 6.7, right? So I might say, hey, okay, what I've heard, okay, so there's the summarizing process. You've done a little bit of that, right? But choosing which one, how do we choose which one to summarize? There's so many things the client say. What do we choose? Then, okay, now if you want to take a step further, let's try to see what's the connection of this to the larger overall scope of the client's outcome. And then if I want to kind of create more finesse, am I asking questions? Am I summarizing more for my clarity? Or am I summarizing more for the client's clarity? How do I demonstrate that? So that is the delineation between presence for the competency and also the overall totality of skill level. Okay. So then as the mentor, you can kind of like dissect for them. So that's why sometimes in one mentor coaching session, I may just focus on one competency or two, because there's so much layers that I can break down for the mentee. Okay. Questions, thoughts, anyone?
So I assume you are saying level 1 is for ACC, isn't it? So 2, 3, and 4 are the higher level credentials. Because if you only hit level 1 and I'm going for PCC, for example, it's not good enough.
Correct.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Summarizing randomly is not good enough.
Correct.
To meet my competency level that I'm working towards.
So how do I point this out to Braille? That I'll look back at my ACC competency and my PCC competency. So for example, right, let's say this is the ACC level. Okay, so reflect, summarize what the client communicate to ensure clarity of understanding. Wow, that means level 1 is also not good enough. I cannot just summarize randomly. So level 1 probably it's just a person starting off a coach training program, maybe ACSH level, right? But you see, PCC level, it's succinctly. So not just summarizing the whole chunk. How do I kind of like really narrow down on the key few things? See, reflects and summarize, and then after that, if we look at the PCC level, it's coach succinctly. Right? So now there's a different layer here, succinctly. How do I do that? Right? So to be more precise, and of course the finesse of it, client's clarity rather than the coach clarity. Okay, so from the mentoring perspective, then that's when you can kind of help the client. Sometimes also maybe there's no evidence of this at all. So how do I help Brio to build up this evidence? Maybe for a start, maybe just let Brio just summarize first. Practice summarizing. Anytime she hears, you just summarize first. Then maybe she gets more confident. Okay, then now decide which one to summarize. Okay, once you get familiar with that, okay, now try to see whether you can connect the summary to the larger scope of the client. Okay, so this is how you help the mentee to build up her skill level, so that if she has not, if let's say now I tell Brio, if Brio doesn't have evidence of this, and I tell Brio, okay, just go and succinctly summarize. Then if depending on the coach, some coach can understand that, some coach might struggle to build that up, so it might not help. So from the mentor perspective, sometimes I will kind of give guide, I'll give some aid to kind of break it down for the mentee, so that they can take it in stages to develop. But if let's say it's someone like Brio, she's very very tight, right? Yeah, okay, Brio can do it. Okay, come Brio, the important thing that since you know how to summarize already, let's just dive in. When you summarize, choose what to summarize and connect the dots. I jump straight to level 3. Right. So depending on the mentee that you have, then you work according to the levels. That's why I say overall totality of skill. That's also based on the mentee level and the capability. Say if I'm mentoring, let's say someone very very not very familiar with coaching, right, or very very new, still very very, then I'll take it slowly. I'll just get them, okay, just summarize. Maybe in every 5 minutes summarize one time, every 10 minutes summarize one time for a start. Yeah, then after that, I want you to listen carefully and then choose the right one to summarize. Then after that, yeah, so then you have a sequence of things to help build up for the mentee. Okay, good. Questions? Is this helping you all? Or Joanne?
I think the succinctly part, it will definitely take a lot of practice.
Yes, yeah, practice. So that's why I say, like, for example, if you're the mentor, how do you help the mentee? Again, all mentees are different. How do you help the mentee to really demonstrate that succinctly? Yeah. So sometimes I hear recordings where the coach say a whole chunk of things, or literally just word for word, but not really succinct in their nature. Yeah. Okay. So good news for Joanne. Joanne, you want a good news?
The good news is we only have one more session.
I thought that's the
We have
best.
already done. We have already done 11 sessions.
Yeah.
So that is the achievement. That is a good news for me.
Must give Joanne a round of applause. It's not easy to push through all the way. Yeah, because there's so many things to consider now for her. A lot of things to consider. Yeah, but great news. Right. So what Joanne needs to do? Okay, so for you, you have an option. You want something challenging or easy?
Challenging, easy, challenging, anything challenging for good learning.
Okay lah. So challenging. So this week, you find some time with Brio or anyone. You mentor them for a full session. Full session. Okay, full
That-
session.
that
Must send me the recording, okay? Because the one I heard is only one part of it. I need to hear the whole thing.
Actually, the recording is there, just that it's with Bill, but it's okay.
Oh,
I will
okay.
be doing it again. Don't worry.
Okay, good. So now with all the learnings, right, what I want you to do is I send you this document as well. Once you finish the recording, let's say with whichever mentor, a full session, then I want you to go and listen back to your mentoring, and then see if you can find evidence for each one of them. Again, don't need to be everything, right? So let's say I just choose one competency. Have I demonstrated one area, right? So in this column here, evidence column, for example, listening to the mentee on all levels: physical, intellectual, emotional, intuitive. Have I done that in the conversation? Yeah. So aware of the styles and different culture and language. Okay, let's say Brio got different patterns. She got a different style, right? Then I was able to do that. Listens equally for areas of strengths and growth. Basically, growth is a nice word for weakness. Okay, so nice word for weakness, right? So that's why there's always a nice balance, right? I think the reason why I love the competency so much, because it's kind of like more holistic, more ecological, not just one area, right? So what you want to do before Brio session, you want to kind of create your own notes and see whether you have done all this. Okay, then put them all together like this. Yeah. In the evidence column. Then once you've done evidence, then what you want to do is in the growth column, you can put in areas for your growth. Okay, so let's say as I'm reflecting my mentoring with Brio, okay, what is one area that I can do to improve that? What is one area I can improve here? Yeah. So this document is it's a shareable document. So as you type, I can see also. Yeah, so the link I sent you is a shareable one. So if you want to share with Brio also no problem, right? But it's so when you type inside I can see, so I can also give you live comments. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, Ken.
Ken. Yay, let's hear
One
rock with
more time.
Joanne.
I'd like to check with you on
Yes.
23rd. The next session is in
Yes.
the night time. Those of you who are running late, you will need to go and go. I'm just checking dates with Jada. On 23rd, right? Let me get back to you one more time because the client that I'm bringing in from Uruguay, I'm not very sure whether can we maybe shift the timing or not. Can I confirm with you again?
Let me know. I'm flexible in the timing, no problem. Mm.
Okay. Okay, Ken.
Thank you, everyone. Hope this helps all of us, and thank you for supporting Joanne.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with me all the time, to be the
Looking forward to your
my-
session, and then finally you complete your certification.
You can also mentor B or mentor Celeste.
Yeah.
You can
We'll have-
variety. You can do more. Then I'll help you. I'll give you some feedback for each one of them. Yeah, so you can do some variety.
But it doesn't have to be a long. Has it to be? 40 minutes just.
Do it. Like
need.
let's say B, maybe you want to choose one competency, then you do a recording, then just
Or just only one competency that I want to practice, and then
do a
in
recording.
my coming coaching session, I just focus on that when I'm doing my questioning lah.
Correct. Then you tell Joanne, okay, I want to focus on competency number maybe 6.345, right? This 3 sub competency. Then I'm going to be deliberate on that. I think for the mentoring session, I just want to zoom in that. Then you can, so you don't have to be like a 60-minute, it can be like 15-minute, 30-minute also can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day ahead.
Bye-bye.
Bye.